Hello everybody, I'm Dean Curry, President and founder of Rising Star Enterprises for Wellbeing.com. We are an in-home personal training service and massage service as well here in New York City, and we are a global company for health and fitness, and I am always speaking on various topics in health, fitness, massage guidance, motivational speaking, living your dreams, discovering the true treasures that lie deep within all of us. And today I'm going to speak about a topic, an excellent topic regarding an issue that has been brought up to me so many times. With so many commercial literature and media out there, there are a lot of myths that surround when losing weight, that surround the limitation of carbohydrates. And some actually make sense. Some diets are very effective. I mean, I hear success stories all the time, not just people losing weight by limiting carbohydrates, but also because anyone could lose weight, but the question is, are you losing weight and being healthy? Okay, because it kind of defeats the purpose, and I'm going to mention something you all know. It kind of defeats the purpose if you lose weight and in the process become unhealthy. So you basically might look okay, and you might look thin, but in the process you have basically damaged your interior environment of your body. And you know, the key is there is a way to limit carbohydrates and do it in a very healthy way. And there are a lot of diets out there that are really focusing on the limitation of carbohydrates. And I won't mention the diets because sometimes with certain particular diets, and I think you all will kind of attest to this or understand, I have found that when you take strong stances on certain diets, instead of just talking about what you feel works, it tends to either get a favorable response or a really unfavorable response. And what you have to understand is certain diets work for certain people and certain other diets don't work for other people. And certain people do diets that are listed in a certain way, and they actually do that diet in a very unhealthy way. And then there are other people that do that same diet, but they actually do the diet in a very healthy way. And sometimes, you know, I'm going to kind of talk against what I'm going to promote today, which is the limitation of carbohydrates, which isn't as necessary or extreme as a lot of diets say they should be. But in the same note, just to give you the other side of the coin, the limitation of certain carbohydrates, depending on if you have an active or sedentary lifestyle, depending on your age, depending on if you have a very active lifestyle, those numbers could vary significantly, okay? They say, you know, the Food and Drug Administration says that 45 to 65% of your carbohydrates, of your calorie intake, forgive me, should come from carbohydrates. Now, that's a very high number if you look at certain diets that really limit carbohydrates. And what does that translate to in calories? A lot. Because let's say you have a 2,000 calorie, let's just give you for example, you have a 2,000 calorie diet, okay? Some people have 3,000 calorie diet, some people have a 1,500 calorie diet. It's hard to give you definite numbers because everyone has a different age. At certain ages, you burn less calories than at other ages based on a lot of different things, not just activity. So there isn't really like set numbers, you know, per se. But let's just say a 2,000 calorie diet, and give or take, some of you, like I said, might do less, some of you might do more, but let's kind of explain it in a very simple way, because when explaining carbohydrates and saturated fats and unsaturated fats, and a lot of my schooling that I've had in these areas, that the terms tend to get very technical. And unless you're trained in that area or went to school for these types of things, sometimes, understanding the difference, let's say, between saturated and unsaturated fats could get a little murky or cloudy, if you will. So let's just try to keep an open mind. This isn't a video to speak about any diets in a negative way, because like I said, some people could really limit carbohydrate intake and still do it in a healthy way and lose weight, and I've heard numerous success stories of people doing this. However, okay, I want to talk a little bit about some of my 30 years doing this. And, helping a lot of people lose weight is one of the main things I do and speak of. And doing it in a healthy way as a certified personal trainer, certified nutritionist, motivational speaker, licensed massage therapist, aerobics instructor. I mean, I've been dealing with these types of things, and as a self-help, inspirational, motivational speaker on human development, I always speak about mind, body, and spirit, and doing things in a way where all those three factors are met. And I think the whole idea of carbohydrate limitation from an intellectual standpoint has been a little confused, because people believe that it is the carbohydrate limitation that lowers insulin levels in the body. And when you lower insulin levels, it basically, when you have less carbohydrates in the body, it basically, the philosophy of losing weight is if you have less carbohydrates in the body and lower insulin levels, the body will then use fat intake and protein intake to make glycogen and make your body run. So the whole idea of the limitation of carbohydrates is that if you limit the carbohydrates, then it will start taking from your fat, and then you'll lose more weight. And that actually sounds pretty good when I say it that way, because if I take less carbohydrates and then in order for my body to run, it starts burning more of my fat, well then that's a good recipe for losing weight. And you know something? It's actually true. However, and this is where things need to be explained, to people, is although that is a true statement and it leads to further weight loss, and again, there are exceptions to the rule, so I don't want all these comments saying I did this with the limitation of carbohydrates and I'm very healthy and I checked all my vitals and I feel great. This is a general statement. There are exceptions to the rule based on a lot of things, and I don't know how healthy you all are, and some people are like mad scientists when it comes to this, and even though they're limiting carbohydrates, they're so strict with their proteins and their fats, and the certain carbohydrates they are getting are cleaner carbohydrates, than let's say high calorie carbohydrates, that they're actually have it down to a science. And even though they're getting less carbohydrates, the body functions really, really well. But so there are exceptions to the rule, and some people have figured out great formulas for doing this, but unfortunately that's not the norm. And when I give these videos, I have to talk to the general public, not fitness experts that figured out formulas that work and things of this nature. The fact of the matter is, when you start limiting carbohydrates to a certain degree. So it starts taking from your fat, usually and generally speaking, unless you're, like I said, an expert, and some of you are, or along, on your ways to becoming experts. The intelligent thing to say to all of you simply is that when people, there's a reason why the Food and Drug Administration, as well as very credible scientific agencies who have studied this stuff and reported on it, tell you that 45 to 65% of your calorie intake should be from carbohydrates. And the reason why that is that you need proteins. If you're an active person, you need proteins. Okay, if you're training and take fitness really seriously, like I do, I train pretty hard, I need those proteins for recovery. And I don't want those proteins being taken because my carbohydrate level is low, okay? Because then I won't recover. And instead of being sore and worn down for, let's say, 24 hours with lactic acid buildup, that's when people feel sore, I might have 48 hours or 72 hours, and I won't recover from my next workout. And it's important when someone like myself is in the fitness arena to take their fitness seriously, because people look to me for my fitness level to ascertain or to measure up their own fitness level. So if I'm not living a favorable life or a healthy life, it may not inspire someone else to do the same thing. So, and now that I'm getting more advanced in age, my recovery time is even slower. I used to be able to recover in a day. Now it takes 2 days. If I start limiting my carbohydrate intake, and then it starts taking from my protein, it may take me 4 or 5 days to recover from a workout. And that's just not going to work, because I'm always training, not just to be in shape, but for various milestones that I'm trying to attain in my own life. And fat, you need fat, because fat is your storage, you see. So when your body is done taking from, let's say, protein and carbohydrates, yes, it starts taking from your fat, but if your carbohydrate level is too low and it starts taking from your fat, then you have no storage for recovery, like protein for recovery. Okay, and you need storage, so when your body's recovering, and not just recovering, your body takes an enormous amount of power to operate. And there's a reason why, and your body, trust me, is smarter than you are, and smarter than I am. Our bodies are smarter. There's a reason why glycogen is formed from carbohydrates first, and then proteins and fats later, because you need proteins and fats to operate your body and your system. Now, if you're more sedentary, you may not need as much protein or fat. But if you're active, like a lot of us are, you need your proteins and fats for later. And there's a reason why they're taken from secondary and not primary, because your body has to operate from 45 to 65% of your calorie intake coming from carbohydrates. And I'm going to tell you why that's important, okay, also. Because in order for your body, okay, to use protein and absorb protein, this is another reason why you don't want to take from your protein, because everything in your body has a function. And this is why I'm making this video, because I don't see enough literature. I see some literature. I don't see enough literature that actually explains this to people, okay, that you need carbohydrates to lose weight, and run your body efficiently, and we're going to get into good carbohydrates and bad carbohydrates. We'll just call them good and bad so you understand what I'm saying, because there's complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates, and you start getting into these words and people just get confused. Certain people do. So what I'm trying to tell you is, in order for your body, let's say you train and active and stuff like that, you don't want to have low carbohydrates because you won't recover when your body starts taking from your protein and fat. And you won't, you need protein to recover and you need fats to recover because fats are your storage. And if you start taking from those, your body's not going to recover and you're going to feel headaches and worn out and all these things. And what's the point of losing weight to be healthy if you're being unhealthy? Okay, it doesn't make sense. Two, in order to recover and in order to use your protein to recover and in order to use your fat to recover, your body needs carbohydrates to create glycogen because glycogen is what makes your body absorb proteins and fats. Okay, so this is how it works. So if you don't have enough carbohydrates in your body will not absorb mostly proteins, which is your building blocks for recovery, and your stored fats. It won't be able to use that and you won't recover. So you're going to be less healthy. Okay, so when you talk about, and like I said, there are certain people that have this to a science and they're like, no, but Dean, I really know how to measure out my protein and the certain fats that I eat, might be fats that stay in the system longer, whether it be certain nuts. The body has a little harder time breaking down certain nuts, and the fats that I'm getting are cleaner fats, whether they be almonds or avocados or salmon, which is what we would call an unsaturated fat versus a saturated fat, which might be like French fries or something like that, where that's not a good, the body doesn't operate that well with saturated fats. We won't get this too technical, but that's just, one thing, that you should know. And some people eat cleaner proteins, whether they be like, in the bean family or lentils or, certain, cleaner, type of proteins that may allow them to take in certain protein that the body, is able to absorb a little bit easier because maybe there's less fat content in the protein and stuff. People get that really down. So I don't want to exclude those people that really have it down to a science. And I keep saying that because, there's always, a certain amount of backlash that people say, I did, a lessening of carbohydrates, and it's worked out for me great, and I lost all this weight. And I've heard those stories, and I ask them, how'd you do it? And when they tell me, and they are sort of like fitness professionals, they really seem like they know what they're doing. Unfortunately, that's not most people, because, certain people are in the industry and really study this stuff. So those people are kind of excluded. However, the body needs carbohydrates to process protein and fat. So let's just talk about grams. How many grams does the body need in carbohydrates? Well, probably closer to 250 grams or so to be healthy. But if you're dieting, the Food and Drug Administration will gladly say anywhere from 50 to 150 grams of carbohydrates in order to lose weight, which they say 45 to 65% of your diet should be carbohydrates. Let's just call it 50%, and let's make proteins and fats at 25% apiece. Okay, so 50 grams of carbohydrates. To me, again, depending on how active you are, maybe you're not active, so you can kind of get it down to that. Maybe you have a more efficient system than others, and sometimes it's just anatomical in nature. So, but 50 to me, and some of the diets out there have 50, and some people have found success doing that, and many much successes to them because they really know how to manage it. But a lot of people, this isn't like, this is something they do as a hobby. It's not something they study so hard. So for the general public, to me, 50 is just, is a little too low, especially if you're active. I would say, you want to move that number, more up closer to 100. It doesn't have to be 100, but that would probably be a safer number as far as overall health. And again, depending on how active you are, your age, and these types of things. But if you want to play it safe, 100, calories. And as far as proteins and fats, I guess you could go down to 25, grams, or we could just call it 50 for carbohydrates, 25 and 25 for fats and proteins. Some people mix that number up a little more, but if you're losing weight, those are numbers that I think are a little, better for health than, let's say, maybe 50 carbohydrate grams and 20 or 25 protein or fat. So, I just wanted to clear up, the whole idea behind carbohydrates. Your body needs them, and I could show you study after study and list them. And your body needs carbohydrates to operate. Just make sure they're cleaner, carbohydrates versus carbohydrates that may not be as good for you, as far as like fried and stuff like that. Brown rice versus white rice would be a better choice. Whole grains, darker bread versus whiter bread. You have to be careful of certain pastas. If you have to eat pasta, try to make sure it's, some whole wheat pasta. But a lot of times the whole wheat pastas, depending on where you buy them, don't really have that much whole wheat in them. It's just like enough to color it. So you have to go online and try to get one that has a higher content if you really want to eat pasta. And I've actually seen pasta made of different varieties. People have made pasta out of zucchini, and stuff like that, which would, and I've had it, and it tastes like spaghetti, and those are ways that you can avoid. But I'm never one to say you can't eat pasta, you can't eat pizza, or food is to be managed. It's not to be eliminated. And I've said this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. Food is to be managed, not eliminated. So you want to get your whole grains in, whether it be granola or something in that family of granola. Raisins actually move a lot of things through. There's some sugar in it. You just don't want to put sugar on things. Anything processed, like even if you can get whole wheat flour versus regular flour, anything with color works better. And as far as breads, something I do and something I tell people to do, and a lot of people don't know this about me, but and I don't really like to talk about myself because it's really about you, not me. But I actually measured my metabolism against 50 clients I had. There's like a breathing machine, you breathe into it, and it measures your metabolism, or how quickly you burn calories at rest. And believe it or not, I must have had 50 clients. Mine was the slowest. So obesity sometimes runs in my family, or we have a propensity to be obese. And, so I'm very active, so I burn a ton of calories. But at rest, I actually don't. And I have to be really, really careful with calorie intake. And I'll still eat a piece of bread, but instead of having let's say something that may not be so great for you, like a bacon, egg, and cheese or something, I really like that. I really enjoy it. I usually make it more like a vegetable omelet type of wrap or something like that. But what I do is I'll just have like a quarter of a piece of bread with it, instead of, I used to have like a sandwich on both sides, 2 pieces of bread. And I'll do things like that, even if it was something like, I don't know, what's a high calorie bad food, or something that has a lot, like French fries or something, or pizza. What I'll do is, like, you take a regular slice and I'll cut that in a third, and I'll have some pizza, but it's just a third. You see, I still get to eat or cheat, as they say, but it's all about management. And after a while, you get really used to things like that because you're not depriving yourself. And it's so you can still treat yourself. It's just don't eat a whole donut, have like a quarter of a donut. And it may seem like, oh, I want the whole donut, but the thing is you get used to it. The hardest part is the first few weeks. So, don't go too crazy with the whole carbohydrate thing where you're taking out all the foods you like and you're limiting it, because your body actually needs, those 50 or let's say 100 grams, 100 grams of, that. And depending on how much protein you need, you could have anywhere from 25, I don't know, to 40 grams. Maybe 50 might be a little too much if you're having 100. And it doesn't have to be 100, it could be 80 or 90. I just think 50 is a little low unless you really know what you're doing. I think people that do 50 are like, to me, and they're able to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and I know who these people are. I speak to them all the time. You have to know what you're doing, or you have to be really strict, following the advice of someone else that knows what they're doing. And sometimes it's not easy to be so strict, So, as far as in a nutshell, carbohydrates is something your body needs to operate. So don't over extreme it, where you're limiting it and taking from fats and proteins, because there's a reason why that's secondary in burning. You don't want it to be primary, because carbohydrates need to be primary for your body to operate correctly and healthy and efficiently. And proteins, and your body can operate on proteins and fats, but proteins and fats have other functions, and that's why they're secondary in burning, and carbohydrates are primary. So I just thought I should explain that on a very simple level so you would understand. And keep tuning in to our channel. I talk a lot about fitness advice and exercise and things like that, and we'll be having some videos coming out in the next several weeks where you could do exercise at home with no weights, exceptional video and things of that nature. And I give a lot of diet advice only because my metabolism is very slow, and so rest. And I have to really be careful how I do it. And I don't eliminate any foods, I just manage them. And it's just a better way to do that. And so, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to have daily updates on fitness. And I talk a lot as a motivational speaker. It's all about self-discovery. It's different for everyone. Everyone has a treasure inside of them. And the whole idea is to be provocative in nature, so you could actually discover through provocative questions or provocative statements that I make, you could actually discover the treasure inside yourself. I don't discover it for you. I provide balance, and balance allows you to discover it for yourself. That's why I never use the term life coach. I don't think anyone could coach someone's life. But what we can do, pardon me, I get a little excited when I talk about motivation, is we could provide balance to a person so they can see themselves and discover themselves. And you might call that a life balance consultant, is the term I like to use. And you could also listen to our 24-hour internet radio station, Up-Tempo Sports Fitness Radio. We're live. It's all motivation, diet, nutrition, sports commentary, primarily in American football. And we don't just talk about football. We talk about the ins and outs, the psychology of football, rehabilitation of certain injuries, and we get into the whole sports management of it, which could effectively be used if you play in leagues and stuff like that for fantasy football, or if you're just a fan and like learning about fitness and rehabilitation and psychology of sports. And you could listen to it on live365.com. You just put in the search bar Up-Tempo Sports Fitness Radio. You could follow us, 4 companies on Twitter, Rising Star Enterprises for Wellbeing, Massage Terrific, Up-Tempo Sports Fitness Radio, and I'm forgetting one, Up-Tempo Sports Fitness Radio, Massage Terrific, and Rising Star Enterprises for Wellbeing and Fantasy Football, RSVP, for YouTube channels that you could tune into, Instagram channels, Twitter channels, Facebook business pages, and our own radio station. And I'm a podcaster on 10 radio stations like iTunes, Google Play Music. So you just put in my name, Dean Curry, you'll probably be able to find most of it, or Fantasy Football RSVP, or our health channel, which is Live Well Now with my name, Dean Curry, or Fantasy Football RSVP, Dean Curry. You can find everything. But the whole idea is it's not really about me and my channels or businesses or anything like that. It's just about helping people. You know, it's about helping people in 3 areas: mind, body, and spirit, helping people to be healthy and giving advice, and inspiring people. And every day I inspire someone. They have a success story and they tell me, it inspires me to keep making these videos and help more people, and so on and so forth. So it's a community. That's what subscribing to the channel is all about, creating a community for all of us, and we all could learn, you know. So I want to wish you all a very great day, and don't overdo it with limitation of carbohydrates, and have a healthy day, a healthy week, and a healthy year, and a healthy life. This is Dean Curry. Till next time, take care.